Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Mia. Today I want to share with you guys the books that I want to read on the month of December. First, let's start with the books that I already finished because I'm uploading this very late. So I've already finished a couple of books. First is The Kite Runner. I've been reading this book since last month. I only had about 50 pages or so left at the beginning of December, so I already finished it. I loved this book. I will have a review soon, hopefully soon. But I do want to make a review about this book because I loved it so much. I picked this book up for the Anti-Bully Reads Readathon, and although it had anti-bully topics in it, it had so much more. I mean, it is such a good book. It talks about culture, and it talks about friendship, and it talks about relationships with your family, and it talks about so much. It also has a lot of very touchy subjects, and it is just such a good book. Like, I can't even put all my thoughts together because there is so much going on in this story. And although the main character is definitely not my favorite person in the world, and even to the end of the book, I was not his biggest fan, I did love the story. The story was really good. So I'll do a book review about this soon. So the next book I finished is Everything by Nicola Yoon, and this book was a very enjoyable read. It was definitely not the most authentic or unique story ever, but it was very enjoyable. I liked the way it was written. It was just so easy, and it was a fast, enjoyable read. It's a romance, and it talks about a girl, or it follows a girl who is allergic to absolutely everything. She has to live in basically complete isolation. With the exception of her mom and her nurse, she can't have contact with nobody else. She lives in a very controlled, very tight environment, and then she meets this boy who moves next door, and everything changes. So it's a very cute story, very much enjoyable. I'm very glad I picked it up. So the next three books I'm currently reading, starting with Illuminae, and this is by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff, and I'm enjoying it. I'm about halfway through the story. It is a very interesting book. The way that it's written is very interesting. The format of it, how different the pages are. The planet was attacked and basically entirely destroyed, and this is retelling the story of how it happened, what caused it, and whatnot. And it's written in a way that is basically a bunch of data, okay? So it's got either voice recordings from conversation for certain people, emails back and forth, or files, papers. It's like a mixture of different types of formats with information describing what happened in this planet and the people that lived in it and what happened to them after the planet was attacked and stuff like that. So far it's enjoyable. There's a few things that have been irritating me a little bit, like almost every character has the same kind of catchphrases. I don't know, I'm having a little bit of a hard time differentiating between the characters, but other than that, I'm really enjoying it so far. We'll see how I feel at the end of it, but I'm very excited to be reading it. I love the format. It's so unique. That's very cool. Another book I'm reading is Sojourn, and this is by R.A. Salvatore. It's the third book of the Dark Elf trilogy, and I know I'm going to like it, but I'm only 8 pages in. I've not really gotten very far with it. I just picked it up. In case you're not familiarized with this series, basically it's about a dark elf who is against all the dark elf stands for, and he is different, but everybody else thinks he is just like any other dark elf who have a very bad reputation. But dark elves are not very loved, and he has a completely different way of thinking. So he is not this evil creature as are all the other dark elves. He's very different, and he disagrees with his own culture, and he disagrees with his people. And this series is about his stories and his struggles with being so different and not quite fitting in with his own race, but not quite being accepted by any other race because of what he actually looks like and what he actually is, because he is a dark elf after all. He's just a different one, and it's very interesting. It's packed with action and with friendships, but anyways, it's a very enjoyable story and I can't wait to finish it and finally return this to my friend who let me borrow them. But yes, hopefully I'll get to finish this one soon. Another book I'm reading is Ignite Me by Tahereh Mafi, and this is the third book of the Shatter Me series. If you have not heard of the Shatter Me series, I have no idea where you've been. But anyways, it's about a girl who has a lethal touch and can kill you if she touches you. And although it's a very powerful and deadly ability or power or whatever you want to call it, she does not want it. She hates it. She hates the fact that she can hurt people because she spent her whole life trying to convince people that she is not a danger, although it is pointless because in a way she kind of is. So anyways, it's following her in her story. However, there's also romance involved in this story, and there is a romance triangle or love triangle going on. However, I am loving this story. I'm enjoying it very, very much. The way it's written is very interesting because it's kind of like a series of thoughts. There's a lot of repeated words and scratched off sentences. Like when you think of something and you're like, no, I can't believe I'm thinking this, and you kind of scratch it off and try to force yourself to think of something else. Kind of like that. It's very interesting. I'm really enjoying it and I can't wait to finish it because this is the last book I have to read. And then I'll be all done with the series. So I'm sad, but I'm very excited at the same time. So the next book that I want to read is a Christmassy themed book, and that is The Christmas Thief, and this is by Mary Higgins Clark and her daughter Carol Higgins Clark. Now Mary Higgins Clark, I've read a few of her stories and they tend to be suspense, thrillers kind of books, which I love. So I'm very excited to get into the story. I hope it's a good one. I've read a few of her stories and they've been pretty good so far. Hopefully this one doesn't disappoint, and it's a Christmas Thief. So I had to read it on Christmas time, right? Right. I don't really even know what the book is about. I haven't read the back. I have no idea what the book is about. It was just very recently given to me and I want to read it. Another book I cannot wait to read is Crown of Midnight, and this is the second official book for the Throne of Glass. However, I'm so confused now because there's this. I read Assassin's Blade, which is 0.5 book, then The Throne of Glass, which is book 1, and this is the second book, okay? This is by Sarah J. Maas. So far, I'm absolutely loving the story. The story follows Selena, who is a assassin, and she basically has to earn her freedom by assisting or competing in this competition for the king. And if she wins this competition amongst assassins and whatnot, then she gets to become the official, you know, like the assassin for the king and do his dirty work for a few years. And if everything goes according to plan, she will earn her freedom that way. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited. I'm loving this story and I can't wait to read this book. The next two books are not books that I absolutely have to read on this month, but I'm gonna try because I took them out of the library and I'll hate to have to go and like retake them out, you know, again. So hopefully I do get to them, but these are basically my last options for the month. The other books that I've shown you so far are my priority, and then these two books are options, if that makes sense. So I have Alive, and this is by Scott Sigler. I have no clue what this book is about, but it sounds very interesting and I kind of want to read it this month. If I don't get to it this month, then I'll probably end up rechecking it out of the library and reading it next month. Another book is The Wandering Jean and the Indian Princess, and this is by Jeff Wheelwright. It's a nonfiction book and it sounds very interesting. It's about a woman who discovers she has cancer, and her cancer gene is a very specific cancer gene, and it's supposed to be most commonly amongst the Jewish community. However, she is not Jewish. She didn't know she had any Jewish background. So it's basically her story of herself, of like her discovery of who she really is, where she comes from, what her background is. So it sounds very interesting. I hope I get to read it this month, and hopefully it's as good as I'm expecting it to be. Last, but certainly not least, I want to have a reread this month, and this will be no shocker, but I would love to reread the first book for the illustrate a Harry Potter new series that's coming out every year from now on. And this is the Sorcerer's Stone, the first book, and I just really, really want to read this because it looks so beautiful, and what perfect time than Christmas for Harry Potter. So I don't think there's much else I need to say about that. Anyways, these are all the books that I hope to read in the month of December. I know I've gone overboard this time like every other time, but fingers crossed I'll get to most of these books and hopefully they're all as good as I expect them to be. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you very soon in another one. Bye!